The night was quiet, but not peaceful. The forest was alive with strange sounds, rustling leaves, hidden growls, and the heavy breathing of unseen beasts. The little alien girl crouched under the wide roots of a glowing tree. Her body shook as she wrapped her small arms around herself. Her people had always told her the same warning. Never go near the humans. They eat us. They smile before the bite. They are monsters. Those words had lived inside her head since birth. Every story, every warning, every cry of the elders always ended the same way. Humans devour the small ones. Now she was alone. Her village was gone, burned down by creatures of the night. She had run for hours, barefoot and crying, until her legs could carry her no longer. The forest was endless and she was weak. Hunger gnawed at her. Fear pressed down on her. And then, she heard it. The sound of footsteps. Heavy, steady, human. The ground shook with each step. Dry leaves cracked beneath boots. A shadow stretched across the glowing plants, tall and wide, like a wall moving closer. The alien girl's heart slammed against her ribs. Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed her small hands over her mouth, trying not to breathe too loud. The stories had come true. A human was here. The figure moved closer, stopping only a few steps away from her hiding spot. She could see the outline, broad shoulders, long arms, and a strange light shining from something in his hand. The alien girl thought it was a weapon. Perhaps this was the moment of her end. She whispered so softly it was almost a breath of air. "Please, don't devour me." Her tiny voice broke in the night. The human froze. Slowly he turned his head, scanning the forest. His strange round eyes glowed in the dark, catching the light of the fireflies. She felt his gaze slice through the shadows, searching, and then it found her. The human bent down, lowering himself closer to the ground. His face came into view. The alien expected sharp teeth, dripping blood, hungry eyes. Instead, she saw something else: confusion, concern, and a smile. But to her, the smile meant danger. She remembered the warnings. They smile before the bite. Her legs trembled. She tried to crawl deeper under the roots, but her strength gave out. Exhaustion weighed her down. Her vision blurred, and before she could run, her small body collapsed in the dirt. Darkness took her. When she woke again, the forest was gone. She was lying on something soft, warm, a blanket. Her eyes fluttered open, and she saw the roof of a wooden hut above her. Panic struck her heart. She sat up fast, gasping for air, clutching her arms tight around her chest. Around the small room, strange objects filled the space. Books, tools, shining boxes. The smell of smoke and cooked food drifted through the air. Her eyes darted left and right. No cage, no ropes, no chains. Beside her bed, a small wooden table held a bowl of food. Fruits she recognized, and bread she did not. For a moment she forgot her fear and only felt hunger. But then she remembered. Trick. Poison. Fatting her up before the feast. The door creaked open. The human entered. He was tall, his frame filling the doorway. He carried no weapon, only a jug of water. His eyes softened when he saw her awake. He raised his hands slowly, palms open, as if to show peace. The alien girl pressed herself against the wall, breathing fast. Her heart beat like a drum. She whispered again, her voice cracking, "Don't eat me." The human blinked, surprised. Then he shook his head quickly. He spoke words she did not know, but his tone was calm, gentle. He placed the jug of water on the floor and stepped back. The girl stared at the water. Her throat was dry, burning. She wanted it more than anything. But fear haned her. What if it was poison? What if one sip would make her weak, ready for his knife? The human didn't push her. Instead, he pointed at the jug, then at himself. Slowly he lifted it, drank a sip, and placed it back. No poison, no trick, only water. The alien girl's eyes widened, her mind twisted in confusion. Why would a monster share water? Why would a hunter waste time showing kindness? She wanted answers, but fear still held her tongue. The human didn't move closer. He only gave her one last small smile, then sat down across the room. He lit a small lamp, its glow warm and golden. He didn't trap her. He didn't touch her. He simply sat, quiet, as though waiting for her to feel safe. The alien girl curled tighter under the blanket, her eyes watching him without blinking. She fought to keep them open, but exhaustion returned. Her last thought before sleep pulled her away was simple and sharp. He smiles too much. He must be waiting. He must be planning. Humans are monsters. They always are. But deep inside, in a place she didn't admit, a small seed of doubt began to grow. The tiny alien girl woke to the sound of crackling fire. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the dim orange glow that lit the small wooden hut. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then the truth crashed back. She was not in her village, not under the glowing trees. She was in the home of a human. Her heart raced. She pulled the blanket up to her chin and pressed her back against the wall. Every story told by her people returned to her mind. Humans take the weak. Humans feed the children first, because they are small and easy to eat. Humans are giants with smiling teeth. Her eyes darted to the table. The food was still there. Bread, fruit, and a jug of water. She had not touched it. Hunger twisted her stomach until it hurt, but fear was stronger. Then the door opened. The human entered. He was tall, filling the doorway like a tree trunk fills the forest. His shoulders looked as wide as two of her kind together. His hands were big enough to wrap arrows on her whole body. The alien girl froze, her breath sharp in her chest. But the human did not rush toward her. He did not bare teeth or grab for her. Instead, he lowered his eyes and placed something gently on the floor, a bowl of steaming soup. The smell filled the room, warm, rich, safe. Her stomach growled so loud she thought he must have heard it. Her cheeks burned with shame. The human looked up, and his eyes softened. He gave a small nod, then stepped back. He pointed at the soup, then at her. His voice rumbled low, words she could not understand, but his tone carried no threat. Still, she whispered, trembling, "No. No, eat me." The human blinked. Then, to her surprise, he laughed. Not a cruel laugh, but a short sound of kindness. He shook his head, touched his chest, and spoke again, slow and calm. His smile returned, but not sharp, not dangerous. The alien girl didn't trust smiles, but something in his eyes felt different. They were not hungry, they were gentle. Yet fear does not die in a single moment. She pulled the blanket tighter and curled into herself. The human didn't push her. He didn't move closer. Instead, he sat down by the fire, far enough away that she could breathe without choking on fear. Minutes passed. Only the fire spoke, crackling softly. Her eyes went to the soup again. The smell made her mouth water. Slowly, carefully, she crawled forward. Every move felt heavy, like chains wrapped around her arms and legs. She reached the bowl, sniffed, then pulled back fast, expecting poison. The human watched, but did nothing. The girl narrowed her eyes, lifted the bowl, and took a tiny sip. Warmth spread through her chest. Her stomach cried for more, but her mind screamed, "Trap! Trap!" She pushed the bowl away and ran back to the blanket, covering her head. The human said nothing. He only watched, quiet, his face unreadable. That night she could not sleep. Every creak of the hut made her flinch. Every time the fire popped, she thought it was teeth snapping. She kept peeking at the human. He had laid himself down on a mat on the floor, far away from her. His chest rose and fell in steady rhythm. His face was calm, peaceful. He looked less like a monster and more like a mountain resting. Still, she stayed awake, whispering to herself, "He will eat me when I close my eyes. He will eat me when I sleep." But the night passed. No attack came, no teeth, no pain, only silence. When morning light crept through the window, she was still alive. The human rose, stretched, and opened the door to let in fresh air. He spoke again, words she did not know, but his tone was soft, like one speaking to a frightened child. He picked up the food she had not finished, smiled faintly, and left the hut. The alien girl sat in silence, her heart thudding. She touched the empty bowl. The soup had been real. It had been safe. Why? Why would a monster waste food? Why would he give her warmth, water, and safety when he could have ended her with ease? Later, the human returned with more fruit. He set it on the table, then began to fix something near the fire. His movements were slow, deliberate, never sudden, as if he knew she would run if he moved too fast. The girl watched him. She studied his hands. Big, yes. Strong, yes, but steady, careful. He handled the firewood like it was fragile, not like it was fuel. A thought crept into her mind, uninvited. Maybe he is not a monster. She shook her head hard. No, that was dangerous thinking. Monsters trick you first. That's what the elders had said. They smile, they give gifts, they wait until your guard is down. Still, she could not ignore what she had seen. That night the wind outside howled. Strange cries echoed from the forest. The alien girl trembled under the blanket, afraid the beasts had followed her. The human noticed. He rose, went to the door, and stood there with something long in his hand, a stick of fire. He watched the forest, his eye, so was sharp, his body ready. He wasn't looking at her, he was protecting her. The alien girl stared in shock. Her people had told her humans smile before they eat. But now she saw something else, a giant standing guard, ready to fight the dark. Her chest ached with confusion. If he is a monster, she thought, then why does he act like a protector? The question kept her awake, more than fear ever did, and deep in her small heart, doubt grew larger than ever before. The morning sun crept through the cracks of the wooden hut. Soft golden light painted the floor, chasing away the shadows of the night. The tiny alien girl opened her eyes slowly, her body stiff from sleeping in fear. She sat up, blinking, and realized the human was already awake. He was sitting by the table, eating. The girl froze. Her body turned cold. This was the moment she had always feared. She would see the truth. She would see him devour meat, maybe the flesh of her people. She braced herself, waiting for the horror. But what she saw broke her thoughts. The human tore a piece of bread with his large hands. He chewed slowly, calmly, then he reached for an apple and bit into it. Juice dripped down his chin as he smiled at the taste. Bread, fruit, nothing more. The girl's eyes widened. Her heart beat fast in confusion. No meat, no bones, no blood. She had expected the stories to be true, but the scene before her was simple, ordinary, even gentle. The human noticed her watching. His eyes softened. He lifted the bread, broke off a small piece and placed it on the table across from him. Then he pushed it forward, closer to her. The girl's stomach twisted with hunger. She had eaten nothing but a few sips of soup since arriving. She wanted it. She wanted it so badly her tiny hands shook. But fear chained her down. Trick. Poison. They wait until you eat, then strike. She pulled the blanket tight and around her. The human did not move closer. Instead, he pointed at the bread, then at her, then at himself. His voice rumbled low, calm, speaking in a language she did not understand. He tore another piece, ate it slowly, then smiled again. The girl narrowed her eyes. He wanted her to believe it was safe. She watched carefully, searching for any sign of a trap. But minutes passed, and nothing happened. The human ate as though food was just food. Her hunger finally won the battle against fear. Slowly, on trembling legs, she crawled forward. She reached the table, snatched the piece of bread, and darted back to the corner, holding it like a weapon. She sniffed it, smelled nothing dangerous. She took the tiniest bite. Warmth filled her mouth. The taste was strange but soft, gentle, almost sweet. Tears burned her eyes. It was food, real food. She ate the rest quickly, before fear could stop her again. The human's smile grew wider, but not sharp, not cruel. He seemed happy. Over the next days, the same pattern repeated. The human ate, then placed food near her. Bread, fruit, vegetables, sometimes soup, never meat. Each time she waited for poison. Each time nothing happened. And each time she felt her fear grow weaker, replaced by something new. Confusion. Why would a monster share food? Why would a monster let prey eat in peace? Her mind spun with questions. One evening, as the sun faded and shadows stretched long across the forest, the human did something different. He prepared food for both of them together. He placed a bowl in front of her, then sat down across the table with his own. 2 bowls, 2 spoons, a meal together. The girl stared at him in silence. No human had ever done this in the stories. Monsters did not share tables. Monsters did not eat the same food as prey. She hesitated, but when he lifted his spoon and ate calmly, she copied him. She lifted hers and tasted the warm broth. The human's eyes lit up. He chuckled softly, pleased, and gave her a nod of approval. Her cheeks grew hot. She lowered her eyes, hiding the smallest smile that dared to rise on her lips. But not all fear was gone. That night, as she lay under the blanket, her thoughts twisted again. Maybe this is part of the trick. Maybe he is feeding me, fattening me, making me trust him. Then, he will strike. She pulled the blanket over her head, shivering. She wanted to believe what she saw, but the old stories still screamed inside her. Her people had warned her all her life. Humans are monsters. Humans devour the weak. And yet, today, she had eaten with one. The forest itself seemed to test her doubt. A loud howl broke through the night. She gasped and sat up. Outside, something prowled. Heavy footsteps circled the hut. She could hear claws scraping wood. Her body shook. She was too small, too weak. If the beasts outside came in, she would be gone. The human stood quickly. He grabbed a stick of fire from the hearth and opened the door. He shouted into the darkness, his voice fierce, and swung the fire high. The creatures growled, then retreated. The forest fell quiet again. The alien girl stared at him, her mouth open. He had not protected himself. He had protected her. Why? Why would a monster save prey? She lay back down, but she did not sleep. She kept watching him as he sat by the fire, guarding the door. His face was calm, his body steady. For the first time, she wondered if the elders had been wrong. Maybe monsters didn't smile before the bite. Maybe monsters didn't smile at all. The tiny alien girl sat near the fire, clutching the blanket close around her. The crackle of flames filled the hut, but her ears were focused on the night outside. The forest was not quiet. Strange cries echoed between the trees. Low growls, sharp screeches, heavy footsteps crushing leaves. She shivered. She knew those sounds. They were the predators that had destroyed her village. Creatures with eyes like burning coals and teeth sharper than knives. They hunted at night, and they hunted everything small. Her hands shook as she whispered to herself, "They will come for me. They always come." The human sat by the door, his back straight, his hand holding a long stick wrapped with fire. His eyes never left the shadows beyond the hut. Every sound made his grip tighten. The girl studied him quietly. She still did not trust him fully, but something about the way he stood guard unsettled her heart. Why would a monster protect her from other monsters? Suddenly, a roar cut through the night. The ground itself seemed to shake. The girl gasped, covering her ears, her whole body curled into a ball. Something was close, too close. The human moved fast. He opened the door and the cold night air swept in. His shadow stretched across the floor as he stepped outside, raising the burning torch. His voice roared like thunder. She could not understand his words, but the power in them made even her bones tremble. From the darkness, glowing eyes stared back. A beast, taller than the hut, stalked closer, its teeth gleaming in the torchlight. The girl screamed. The human shouted louder, swinging the torch high. Flames lit his face. He looked fierce, strong, unshaken. When the beast charged, he didn't run. Instead, he slammed the burning stick into the ground, sending sparks flying. The beast stopped, growled, then backed away. The fire was stronger than its hunger. One by one, the glowing eyes disappeared into the trees. The forest grew silent again. The human stood there a long time, breathing heavy, making sure the danger had passed. Then he returned to the hut and closed the door. The girl stared at him with wide, wet eyes. He had fought the darkness for her, but her fear did not leave. It only twisted in a new direction. She whispered, her voice trembling, "Why? Why save me? If you are monster too, why not let them eat me?" The human didn't understand her words, but he seemed to understand her tone. He crouched down, lowering himself so his giant form didn't tower over her. Slowly, carefully, he touched his chest with his hand and then pointed at her. His expression was serious. His eyes shone in the firelight. He shook his head. The girl's heart pounded. She could not understand his language, but his meaning was clear. "I will not harm you." Still, she struggled to believe. The stories were too deep, the warnings too strong. She turned away, hugging the blanket, but even as she closed her eyes, her mind kept repeating the same question. If humans are monsters, why does he act like a protector? The next morning, the human worked outside, chopping wood, building stronger walls for the hut. Each strike of his axe echoed like thunder. The girl sat inside, watching from a corner. He returned with food, setting fruit on the table. He never forgot her. He never left her hungry. Later, when the sun began to sink, he returned again with something wrapped in cloth. He placed it gently on the table and stepped back. Curious, she crawled forward. She opened the cloth and gasped. Inside were flowers, bright, glowing flowers from the forest, the same kind that grew near her old village. Her small hands trembled as she touched the petals. Memories rushed back, her family, her people, the laughter of children. She bit her lip hard, holding back tears. The human watched her with quiet eyes. He said nothing, but his gift was a message. "I know you are scared. I know you are alone, but you are not forgotten." That night, she could not sleep again. She sat by the fire holding one of the glowing flowers. Her heart was heavy with questions. The elders had warned her all her life. Humans devour us. They smile before the bite. But this one had shared food. This one had protected her. This one had even brought her flowers. She looked at him, lying on his mat across the room. His chest rose and fell slowly as he slept. In that moment, she realized something. Maybe the real monsters were not humans. Maybe the real monsters were the ones outside, the creatures with glowing eyes and sharp teeth. The human stirred in his sleep. For a moment, his hand reached toward the fire, as if guarding even in his dreams. The girl hugged the flower close to her chest. For the first time since her village fell, she felt a strange, fragile thing grow inside her. Hope. But hope can be dangerous, because deep inside, a whisper still warned her. Monsters smile before the bite. Do not forget. Do not trust too soon. And so, as the fire burned low, the tiny alien girl sat in silence, torn between fear and trust, not knowing which one would save her life. The tiny alien girl sat near the fire, hugging her knees. The glowing flower the human had given her rested in her lap. She kept staring at it, remembering her village, remembering the faces of her people that she would never see again. The hut was warm, but her heart felt cold. The human noticed. He was sitting across the room carving something from wood with a small knife. His hands were steady, careful, never wild. When he looked up and saw her tears, he paused. He placed the knife down slowly and leaned forward. His eyes softened and he spoke words she could not understand, but his voice was quiet, gentle, like the low hum of the forest at dawn. The girl pressed her lips together. For days, she had eaten his food, taken his water, hidden under his blanket. He had not hurt her. He had protected her, but fear still clung to her heart like vines. She wanted to ask the question that burned inside her. Why are humans monsters, or are they not? Her small voice finally broke the silence. You're kind. My people say, humans came, and then we were gone. The human tilted his head. He did not understand the words, but he understood the pain in her voice. So she tried again. She pointed to herself. My people. Then she swept her hand in a wide circle as if showing a village. Then she held her fingers up and closed them, like claws, making a roaring sound. Finally, she pointed at him. His eyes widened. He understood. She believed his kind had destroyed her people. The human shook his head quickly. He placed his hand on his chest, firm, and shook his head again. No, he said. But the girl frowned. Then, who? Where did they go? Her voice cracked. She wanted the truth. The human rose and went to a shelf. He pulled out something small, a book. Its cover was worn, its pages yellowed. He opened it and showed her pictures. The girl crawled closer, her eyes wide. She saw drawings of beasts, giant creatures with glowing eyes, long claws, and teeth like knives, the same ones that had attacked her village. The human pointed at the beasts, then at the forest outside. Then he tapped his chest and shook his head. The girl's heart raced. He was saying it wasn't humans. It was them, the monsters of the forest. She blinked fast, tears filling her eyes. Could it be true? Had she spent her life believing the wrong story? Her elders had told her humans smiled before the bite, but this one was showing her the truth. Still, doubt whispered in her heart. Maybe it was another trick. Maybe he wanted her to think humans were innocent. She turned away, hugging herself. I don't know what to believe. That night, she dreamed of her village. She saw the children running between the glowing trees. She saw her mother's face, smiling as she handed her a flower. Then the dream turned dark. The beasts came, fire spread, screams filled the air. She woke up crying. The human stirred and saw her shaking. He didn't touch her. He only lit the fire again, bringing light back into the room. Then he sat quietly nearby, letting her know she wasn't alone. She stared at him through her tears. A monster wouldn't care. A monster wouldn't stay awake just to make sure she wasn't afraid. The next day, Tintu. The human left the hut for a while. When he returned, he carried something wrapped in cloth. He placed it gently in front of her. The girl hesitated, then slowly unwrapped it. Inside was a small wooden carving. It was rough, not perfect, but she recognized the shape. A child, one of her kind. Her breath caught. She held it tight in her small hands, her eyes burning. Why do this? She whispered. The human pointed at the carving, then at her. He placed his hand on his chest and bowed his head. His meaning was clear. I see you. I respect you. I will not let you be forgotten. The girl could not stop her tears. For the first time, she felt the walls of fear crack. That night, the wind outside was calm. No beasts, no roars, only the quiet hum of insects. The girl lay on her blanket, staring at the wooden carving. She whispered to herself, maybe humans are not monsters. Maybe the stories were wrong. But then another thought rose, sharp and dangerous. If the stories were wrong, then everything I believed was a lie. Her chest ached with confusion. Trust was heavy, doubt was heavier. Across the room, the human rested on his mat, eyes closed. His face was calm, his body still. He looked nothing like the monster she had imagined all her life. She hugged the carving to her chest and closed her eyes. For the first time, she allowed herself to wonder, what if humans were never the monsters? What if they were the protectors we had feared all along? But even as hope grew, a warning lingered in her heart. Hope could be broken, trust could be betrayed, and she knew the forest still hid dangers darker than any smile. The truth was coming, and the truth would change everything. The sky grew heavy with dark clouds. Thunder rumbled in the distance, deep and threatening. The tiny alien girl sat near the window of the hut, hugging the small wooden carving the human had given her. The air smelled strange, sharp, and electric. The human stepped outside, looking up at the sky. His face tightened. He moved quickly, pulling tools and wood to strengthen the hut's walls. He knew what was coming. A storm. The girl had seen storms before in her village, but never like this. The clouds seemed angry, pressing down on the forest. The wind howled like the cries of 100 beasts. She crouched in the corner, trembling, as rain began to pound the roof. The hut shook, the fire sputtered and hissed. The human returned, dripping wet, and shut the door. He knelt by the fire, shielding it with his body until it grew steady again. His clothes clung to his skin, his chest rising and falling fast. The girl stared. He had risked himself to keep the fire alive, for both of them. Then it happened. A flash of light tore the sky. A thunderclap roared so loud it shook the ground, and then came the smell of burning wood. The girl gasped. A tree outside had caught fire. The storm had birthed a greater danger. The flames spread fast, eating through the forest floor. Smoke filled the air. The human's eyes widened. He grabbed a pack, threw food and water into it, then turned to her. His voice was sharp but not cruel. He pointed at the door, then at her. He wanted her to follow, but fear chained her feet. Her eyes filled with tears. No, go. Fire eats everything. The human shook his head quickly. He reached for her hand, but stopped himself. He didn't force her. He only knelt down, meeting her eyes, and spoke in a voice softer than the storm. She stared at him, heart pounding. Something in his eyes gave her courage. Slowly, her trembling legs moved. She followed him out the door. The forest was chaos. Fire raced through the trees, glowing red against the black sky. Smoke curled thick and heavy, choking the air. Sparks rained down like angry stars. The girl coughed, her small body weak. Her legs stumbled, and she fell to her knees. The human turned back at once. He scooped her up in his strong arms. She gasped, terrified. She had never been this close to him. His chest was like a wall, his heartbeat strong against her ear. She expected to feel like prey, trapped in a monster's grip. But instead, she felt safe. He ran through the burning forest, holding her tightly, shielding her with his body from the falling sparks. His steps were heavy but steady. Every time a branch crashed down, he turned his back to protect her. The girl clutched his shirt, her fear mixing with something new. Trust. Then disaster struck. The ground gave way near a riverbank, softened by the rain. The human's foot slipped, and both of them tumbled down the muddy slope. They crashed into the river with a splash. The current was strong, dragging them apart. The girl screamed as the water pulled her under. She kicked and flailed, but the river swallowed her small body. Through the blur of water, she saw a shadow, his shadow. The human dived after her, fighting the current. His hands reached out, grabbing her wrist just as she slipped deeper. He pulled her up, gasping for air, holding her against his chest as the river carried them downstream. He kicked hard, steering them toward the bank. At last, he dragged them both onto the muddy shore, collapsing in exhaustion. The girl lay in his arms, coughing water, trembling from fear. She looked up at him, expecting to see anger or hunger. Instead, she saw pain. His body was scratched, his skin burned from the fire, but his eyes searched only for her safety. Tears blurred her vision. "No monster," she whispered. "No monster would do this." The human frowned, not understanding her words, but he brushed wet hair from her face with a gentleness she had never known. When the storm finally passed, they found shelter in a cave. The human built a small fire with the dry wood he managed to save. He laid his soaked jacket on the ground and motioned for her to sit on it, keeping her away from the cold stone. She stared at him in silence, her heart heavy with questions. Her people had told her all her life, humans devour us, humans smile, before the bite. But now she had seen the truth with her own eyes. This human had risked his life in the fire. He had saved her from the river. He had carried her as if she was treasure, not prey. She touched the carving he had given her, still safe in her pocket. Her throat ached. She whispered, barely audible, "Maybe. I was wrong." The human glanced at her. He didn't know the words, but he saw the softness in her eyes. He gave a small smile, tired but warm. And for the first time, she didn't see danger in that smile. She saw kindness. But deep inside, one last wall of fear remained. What if he was different? What if he was the only human who acted this way? What if others were not gentle giants, but the monsters from the stories? The question lingered in her heart like a shadow. And she knew the answer would come soon. The storm had passed, but the forest still carried scars. Trees lay broken, black smoke rose from the ashes, and the river ran dark with mud. The tiny alien girl and the humans stayed in the cave until the world outside grew calm again. She sat near the fire he had built, her small hands wrapped around the wooden carving he had given her. Her clothes were damp, her hair tangled, but her heart was heavier than her body. For so long, she had believed humans were monsters. Now she had seen this one fight fire, face beasts, and save her from drowning. Her fear was breaking apart piece by piece. But doubt still whispered, what if this one is different? What if the others are not like him? The truth had to come, and she was afraid of it. That morning, the human led her out of the cave. The air was fresh, washed clean by the rain. The forest glistened, the smell of ash mixing with the smell of wet earth. Birds sang again, cautious but hopeful. The girl walked beside him, her small feet stumbling in the mud. He slowed his pace, waiting for Shartisar. Sometimes he held branches aside so she could pass. Every gesture was careful, gentle. After hours of walking, the trees grew thin. The girl gasped when she saw what lay beyond. Buildings, large and strange, standing tall against the horizon. Smoke rose from chimneys, light shone from windows. A human settlement. Her heart thudded in her chest. She grabbed his sleeve, trembling. No, others, they will eat me. The human crouched down, meeting her eyes. He placed a hand on his chest, then on hers, then pointed toward the village. His eyes were calm, his meaning was clear. You are safe with me. But her fear was stronger. She shook her head, tears spilling. They are monsters. All of them. The human sighed softly. He could not explain in words she understood. He could only show her. And so he took her hand, gently, as if holding a fragile bird, and led her forward. The humans in the village noticed them at once. People stopped what they were doing. A woman carrying baskets froze, staring. Children playing with sticks dropped them and ran behind their parents. All eyes turned to the tiny alien girl. Her body shook. She tried to hide behind the human, her heart screaming, "They will devour me." They smiled before the bite. But what she saw broke her world. The humans didn't bare teeth. They didn't roar. Instead, they stepped back, giving her space. Some whispered, pointing not with anger, but with wonder. Then one of them, a woman with kind eyes, came forward slowly. She knelt down, lowering herself so she wouldn't tower over the girl. She extended her hand, palm open, empty. The girl flinched, but she noticed. This was the same gesture her human guardian had shown her on the first day. No threat, only peace. The girl's small hands clutched the wooden carving tighter. Tears filled her eyes. Could this be real? Could all the stories of monsters be lies? The woman smiled. Not sharp, not hungry, but warm. Then she pulled something from her basket and placed it on the ground. Bread. The girl stared at it. Bread, again. Simple, harmless. Her chest tightened. One by one, other humans stepped forward. They brought fruit, water, blankets. None tried to touch her. None tried to harm her. They only offered kindness. Her legs gave way. She fell to her knees, clutching the carving to her chest. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "They're not monsters," she whispered. "They're not monsters at all." The human crouched beside her. He placed a large hand gently on her shoulder. His eyes told her everything. "You are not alone anymore." The girl wept openly, for her lost people, for the lies she had believed, for the new truth that hurt and healed at the same time. She looked at the humans around her. For the first time, she saw them not as giants waiting to eat her, but as protectors, givers, family. That night, she sat by a new fire in the heart of the village. The humans had given her warm clothes, food, and a small place to rest. Children peeked at her with wide eyes, curious but not cruel. Women smiled softly, and men nodded with respect. The tiny alien girl hugged the wooden carving tight. She thought of her village, gone forever. She thought of the fear that had ruled her life. And she thought of the human who had carried her from the shadows into the light. Her eyes lifted to the stars above. "All my life," she whispered, "I thought humans were monsters. But they are the ones who saved me. They are the ones who gave me back hope." The fire crackled, the humans laughed and talked around her, and for the first time in her life, the little alien girl felt safe. She leaned against her guardian, her eyes heavy with sleep. His hand rested protectively on her shoulder. Before drifting into dreams, she whispered one last time, her words carried by the night. "Please, don't devour me. But now, I know you never will." And in her heart, the fear was gone forever.